I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
We are the future, Charles, not them.
I'm kidding.
We're the X-Men, dated metaphor for racism in the 60s.
What's a Magneto? A very powerful mutant.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Enter the X-Verse, where we're going through every movie in the Fox X-Men catalogue. I am Kyle, I'm joined by your other wonderful host, Nathan. Say hello.
Hello everyone, I'm Nathan.
And today we are doing X-Men Days of Future Past. Sort of. I mean, we are doing it, but we'll get into it. We're doing two different versions of it at once. It's going to be complicated.
I think it'll be interesting, actually.
I think it should be interesting, yeah. So, for context, I watched the regular cut of the movie, the theatrical cut.
Yep.
And Nathan, you watched the Rogue cut.
I did watch the Rogue cut. The box art, everything's all red.
Now, we did do this before for Batman v Superman, right?
Yes.
And this isn't a Snyder cut thing. This is more like that, right? It just adds some extra scenes and stuff.
But it's a bit like, it's definitely akin to the Batman vs Superman Ultimate Edition versus Theatrical Edition. You just add some extra stuff. I don't know why they done it. I tried looking up why they done it. All I can see is people explaining why everything was cut, but I can't see an explanation for why they then decided to release a version where it's all put back in.
Yeah, because this was one of my notes, is because I was reading your notes before, and there's a lot of scenes where I was just reading what your description of the scene was. It's like, yeah, I would have cut that. So
yeah.
So like, I get it, but yeah, it's interesting because I didn't even know this was a thing until you had mentioned it. I didn't realize there was a whole extra edition of this movie.
Yeah, it's been a version of the film I've known existed, you know, as just a piece of trivia in my brain. I've seen it on sale in physical media outlets and whatnot over the years. I've never bought it. I rented it on Amazon Prime for this, but because I own the theatrical cut on a wonderful embossed Blu-ray, and I kind of thought, I want to actually buy this maybe, because this feels like maybe as time goes on, because I don't think they print it anymore. You know, like it'll be hard to come by. But I thought, no, actually, I don't care that much. Strangely enough. But yes, I knew that it was the Rogue cut because the character of Rogue is sort of kind of in this film.
Yes, she does technically appear in the last 5 seconds.
Along with like everyone else from the original X-Men cast. And apparently she had more to do in this movie, but completely gutted from the theatrical release of the film. I can understand why they would do it. It does kind of bloat the film's runtime and pacing a little bit. The runtime for the Rogue cut was 2.5 hours. Do you know how long the theatrical cut was, Kyle?
It's just over 2 hours. It's like 2 hours and 4 minutes, I think.
Yeah, so I think this added like 17 minutes of extra runtime, I think. And it is interesting to see, it's called the Rogue cut, but there's little bits that are nothing to do with the character of Rogue that were re-added. Because you get to a point later in the movie where it's very obvious, okay, this is the Rogue cut stuff because it's stuff in the future and they're going to get Rogue.
Because Rogue's in it, yeah.
Rogue's in it, yeah. But then there's other little bits throughout the movie that are not in the theatrical cut. But then you said maybe I was wrong and some stuff actually was in the theatrical cut, Kyle. So maybe
there's a couple things, but yeah, definitely some of the scenes you mentioned were not in it.
Yeah, so bits with like little back and forth quips between two characters in a scene or something are not there. It was an interesting watch. I'd never seen the Rogue cut before. Should mention that. Kyle, you've never seen this film before.
I had never seen this movie before. No.
No. Well, why don't we go with that then? What is your thoughts on X-Men: Days of Future Past?
Nathan, I'm going to blow your mind here, but Nathan, I think this is a pretty good movie.
Crazy.
Hot take. Usually considered the best of all the X-Men movies. I think it's quite good.
Yeah. It's really good, isn't it? I was so worried you were going to hate this.
Why would I hate this? Like, I know you're worried about my delicate sensibilities about seeing a depressing hell future, but I'm okay with a depressing hell future sometimes, okay?
Well, yes, Kyle, I was very concerned about your sensibilities as it comes to a hellscape, you know? But I'm happy this hellscape's right up your alley.
Well, look, I mean, part of the movie is undoing it. It's the whole driving force of the movie, right? So
yeah,
if you're looking to set up the justification for a time travel plot, having it just be awful is a good plan.
So this film was made by a director who we can't talk about, right? But
Actually, look, okay, I do kind of want to talk about it just a little bit, because I'm curious about something.
okay,
We knew at this point Bryan Singer was a dodgy dude, right? We knew at this point.
I mean 2014, Kyle, I didn't.
When I was on his Wikipedia, he has accusations going back to the 90s. We knew he was a dodgy dude when the first ones came out.
Oh, yeah, this is like pre-Me Too, you know? Like
It's on the cusp, but yeah, I guess.
like Harvey Weinstein had been doing it for decades, you know?
Right, so it was an open secret, but it wasn't, like, fully public yet.
Yeah, probably, exactly.
Okay.
So,
Just wondering, how long are we going to keep bringing this guy back?
oh well, yeah, well, he's here. He's he's kind of here for the whole thing, I think.
Yeah.
But Matthew Vaughn, director of First Class, originally wanted to return for another X-Men film after First Class.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought that Days of Future Past should be like the cap of a trilogy, and there should be like another film after First Class with the
This
First
movie
Class.
does feel quite analogous to something like Infinity War. It feels like a big event movie.
Yeah, doesn't it? I think it succeeds in that, but then
I agree, but yeah, it would make maybe more sense if there was another First Class era movie between this and this one.
yeah, so he thought maybe they should do like a First Class movie and have Wolverine in it, Hugh Jackman, but just have it completely set in its timepiece. Don't bring any future cast members in it. Nothing about the future. Just set it where it's set, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the studio didn't want to do that. They wanted to run and right into it. And I think that was where Matthew Vaughn said, "Nah, I'm out. Peace out. I'm not doing it." Because I think he, which listen, love Matthew Vaughn. Don't know if he goes by Matt. Very good creative instincts, and I think that his vision also would have been good.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie's great.
Yeah,
know?
it's a really good movie still.
I actually don't think that a in-between movie would have helped this end product more. Not in a way that I
It would have maybe. I don't know. You don't really need more fleshing out with young X and Maggie Till. We got all that we need from the last movie. So
yeah, he done such a good job that we didn't need his own sequel.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this movie just so strong. I think everyone looks great, and I feel like someone watched or played Mass Effect 3 when they made this movie.
It's very Mass Effect. I saw that in your notes. I didn't make that connection. I was thinking more Terminator, but yeah, the big, like, ominous ships flying in the darkness and everything else all grey and awful, and there's just dead bodies piled everywhere. It's very end of Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, seeing, like, landscapes around the globe, like, infiltrated by the I know they're not aliens, but alien-esque beings.
Yeah.
Like, these big Sentinel ships just hovering over the Kremlin, or Sentinels in the Great
and
Wall
even,
of
like,
China.
the footage or like the shots of all these people like in these big tunnels being led off to their deaths is very Reapers.
Yeah, right. So, and then I think even the X-Jet is a little bit like Normandy. Did you make that connection, or when you read my notes, did you go, "Oh, I see that"?
I see what you're going for, though. I see it. Yeah,
because like when they stop, they kind of pull up at the front, and it's got these like sort of slope down wings to either left and right that are all in different parallel lines. You know, it's got some sort of a purple warp core in it, like a negative drive.
Yeah, this is the first one that actually feels like it's the not too distant future. They've got some futuristic tech, but you know.
So this is set 50 years beyond 1970.
Right. Yeah. So this is what, like 2020.
Yeah. And you know what? I think everyone's looking great. I like the whole premise of it as well. I like that these X-Men are just on the run.
Yes.
They are some sort of freedom fighters vaguely, but
they've already lost.
At the point of the story we're at, yeah, they're completely just on the run. They're scattered. We have a Cerebro that's portable inside the X-Jet that Professor X can use to identify where his X-Men are scattered throughout the globe, to keep track of people. And
it's a hell of a pivot coming straight from the Wolverine.
Oh, yeah, right. So we get that post-credit scene from the end of the Wolverine, Kyle. What did you think was going to happen in this movie, Kyle, based on that post-credit scene?
Well, I already knew what happened in this movie. But if, like, assuming I didn't know that, I would be like, oh, they're going to team up to fight some bad guy. That's what's going to happen.
Which, sure. But no, multiple years have passed and Wolverine's got grey temples. I love the grey temples. I love it. He's still finding cigars. I like their big black padded Kevlar outfits that they're wearing.
Oh, yeah.
With the muted yellows down the side for Wolverine.
They've still all got their colours. But, they're in their future resistance outfits.
He's still finding cigars in this future.
What is a Logan without a cigar,
And he's got his adamantium claws back.
Yeah, can I just say what, a journey we've been on with Logan these past 4 movies in terms of, his characterization?
Yeah.
Because we've got X-Men Origin Wolverines, and we've got the Wolverine where he's, edgy, loner Wolverine, right?
Yeah.
And then immediately we come to this, and this is fully, he's an X-Man Wolverine. He's all in on the team. He's given the big speeches and everything. It's a real pivot coming from the last movie.
What I think is quite interesting about this movie is Logan feels like part of a team. I think right up until maybe he is sent out on the mission to find young Charles in the past, he's just kind of in the background.
Yeah, he's just given equal focus as everyone else. He's on this level of Storm.
Yeah, exactly. Which I quite like, to be honest. No disrespect.
Maybe
to
the best
Wolverine.
Storm look, by the way.
Oh, great! She looks amazing.
I love that her hair gets shorter in every single movie.
Yeah, Halle Berry's cutting her hair for some reason. She's like, I'm not wearing a wig. I'm not doing it. Just everyone looks great. I think Magneto looks great. He didn't have a helmet. Wonder where his helmet is.
I guess he just doesn't need it anymore because him and Charles are working together now.
It's very true. But it's just the brand, The Sentinels have taken it and melted it.
As per usual,
Yeah.
Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart on point in this movie.
Absolutely. They don't have a lot to do in this movie. The roll cut gives specifically Magneto a little bit more to do. But they're absolutely tremendous every single moment that they're on screen together.
Yeah, I love his performance of oh man, I really messed this up, Charles. This is my bad. I'm really, really sorry about all this.
And it speaks to Charles's character that he's still willing to take him in,
Oh yeah, just because someone stumbles doesn't mean they've lost their way.
Yeah, there you go, Kyle. There you go. You're paying attention to the film.
Yeah, we've got Bobby back. He has a beard.
He's got a beard. Him and Kitty Pryde are now together.
Apparently.
Yeah, in this future, something must have happened with Rogue.
This is certainly the dark timeline if we've broken the love triangle.
I really like how many people die in this film.
Yes. Well,
the film opens with the Sentinels finding Iceman and Kitty Pryde. And a few others, Bishop, Blink, and Warpath, whoever the hell Warpath is. Apparently that's another son of Magneto.
Sometimes it's complicated.
Yeah, okay. So I had to look up his name when I was putting F somewhat in my notes.
Yeah, Warpath he has a common X-Men character, but I think his deal is usually he's basically just a mutant super soldier. He has Captain America powers.
He gives big Winter Soldier vibes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he's basically just got some super strength, some higher than average stamina, that sort of thing.
Yeah, he's a good spotter because he's the one that spots this, because he was so they all have a thing going for them, So Warpath spots Sentinels moving in their position. He then tells the team, Kitty Pryde then uses her powers on Bishop because he's super strong. He can mentally survive a trip a couple days back in time to his younger body.
This is the big thing that the movie just kind of asks you to accept, which is that one of Kitty's powers is to send your brain back in time.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, listen, I
don't know what that has to do with walking through walls. But,
I know nothing about Kitty Pryde's power set, to be honest with you, apart from going through hard surfaces.
So I could be wrong about this, to be fair, but I think that in the comic version of this story, it's Kitty Pryde that goes back in time.
Right, okay, but Elliot Page isn't Hugh Jackman, so...
Yeah, well, quite, yeah.
But
I think the whole, sending your brain back in time thing is made up for this movie.
Right, okay. Well, I mean, I think it's a very good adaptation for in terms of the end product that we got. I think this all's fine, Mm-hmm. Wolverine is the only one strong enough to be able to make the journey because Bishop couldn't go 50 years back in time the way he could maybe survive a trip a couple days back in time. I quite like they decided they didn't have the balls to just make that character Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, so they just gave us Sunspot.
How funny would it be if it was Chris Evans, Johnny Storm?
See, actually, for 2014, right, where we're getting like Avengers, Winter Soldier,
Ultron's next year. Yeah.
Ultron's on his way. I actually think it wouldn't have been funny. I think it would have been very interesting. I think
they weren't daring enough to do it back then.
They weren't daring enough to do it back then. I actually think it would be more likely it would have been like a first reveal of Michael B. Jordan's Human Torch, you know? But Sunspot in this film was used as if he were the Human Torch.
Yeah.
The actor who plays him he's passed away now. He was one of my favourite characters and actors in a political show called The Designated Survivor. Really good, because I forgot that I think I read his filmography. You know when you watch a show and you're just looking up actors in the show and what they've done?
Yeah.
I saw he was in this. This was like years ago. And I was like, oh my god, who are you? And I saw a picture of him. I was like, oh, okay, I guess, totally. But then that was like knowledge lost to my brain. And then when I rewatched this film last night, I was like, oh my god, it's you! And I was like, oh yeah, I kind of vaguely know, but it's like when we see Abigail Thorne in Game of Thrones or Star Wars or something, you know?
Yeah.
It really takes you out of it because you're like, oh, someone I know from something else fairly niche, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure it's a very relatable thing. It's like when I heard Will Wheaton's voice watching Naruto the other day.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, I'm a big fan of our post-apocalypse team on the run.
Yeah.
Nice to see our cast maybe one last time, at least at time of recording.
Yeah, well, this movie definitely feels like this is supposed to be the wrap up for these characters.
Yeah, goodbye OG X-Men. We're going full first class. Because it even ends as in a different timeline for them. Continuity's been changed.
Yeah, oh yeah, we retcon all the previous movies, but you know, it's with that sort of like Fox X-Men. Don't worry about it. Sort of smile and a wink.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. It's like we're gonna reach the first class cast up to the original movie at some point, but it's a different timeline, so does it really matter? Not really.
Yeah. Wait, okay. Yeah, because this is supposed to be a direct continuation from The Last Stand. Like, The Last Stand universe, it became this hellscape future, right?
Yes.
We're just not going to worry about X-Men Origins Wolverine, though. Just don't worry about that one.
It's a prequel. So I notice in my notes here, right, there's a few moments in this movie where we get, usually it's via Logan being PTSD'd through seeing Stryker, right?
Yeah, it's the specific scene where he sees Stryker and he flashes back to all the Weapon X stuff.
Yeah, it happens after that as well. I think when he asks Charles to take a look in his mind to see if he can find the strength that he needs to get back in the saddle, as it were. Yes. And you see lots of X-Men of movies past montage of clips. And it's every X-Men movie that's ever been made under the Fox banner, with the exception of X-Men Origins.
Yep, we see like the Hiroshima Wolverine shot in there,
yep,
but we don't see anything from X-Men Origins.
You do even see some Weapon X clips, but it's the stuff that they filmed for the first X-Men movie or X2. Because, you know, they kind of, even in those movies, they do kind of trauma flashbacks.
Yeah.
So it's those clips you see. You see nothing of Wolverine Origins, and I think it's so interesting, because I'd never noticed it before, right? This is the kind of things you pick up when you're watching it to be a critic.
Yeah, they're going to retcon it all anyway. It's not like we couldn't just shove it in there. But
yeah, I know. I think it really shows how they felt about that movie, you know?
Because this is another, like, in the Wolverine, like, hey, we're Sabretooth right now.
Yeah, right, absolutely. They must have really hated that movie after it came out for the damage it was perceived to have done to the brand, despite the fact they have more than recovered. It took them until Deadpool 2 or 1 maybe before they felt the ability to laugh at that film.
I think they make a joke about it in Deadpool 1.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. But they definitely do in Deadpool 2. But yeah, I mean, still, that's 2018. That's a decade to be able to laugh at it. They weren't quite ready in 2014 or 2013 when they made this film, I suppose.
No. But yeah, so we send Logan back in time via brain magic. So he's like possessing his younger self, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think it's a neat concept for time travel, actually, I think. Yeah,
I feel like I've seen something similar to this elsewhere before, but I couldn't for the life of me give you a name.
Oh, you mean like All Good Things TNG. He goes back to his younger self.
Sure, what a pull, Kyle. Brilliant. Brilliant, of course. God. Let's talk about Star Trek whilst we're here, Kyle. We get a Star Trek clip later in this movie from The Naked Time. Hank McCoy. He likes
it's playing in the background of the entire scene. You can hear like the Enterprise beep bloops noises.
You can hear William Shatner say, "Time travel."
We seem to have gone back in time.
Great,
Yes.
love it.
Oh, good stuff.
That's our Star Trek bit done. But yes, Kel, good stuff, all good things. Patrick Stewart time slipping through different versions of himself just in his head. Absolutely, right? But they've co-opted it perfectly in this film. We're in a waterbed, Kel.
Well, Nathan, it's the 70s, and we have to make it very clear to the audience that we're in the groovy 70s. Are the 70s groovy? What's the adjective for the 70s? Groovy sounds right. Funky 70s?
Funky. Disco.
Okay, yeah. Groovy's more 60s, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Funky 70s. Sure, let's go with that.
Absolutely. But we do a time travel brain fade to a lava lamp.
Because it's the 70s.
It's the 70s. So Wolverine gets out a bit. You know what? Hugh Jackman, more like Hugh Jacked, man.
This is where we get all these jokes about him always having his shirt off. He shows butt in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Hugh Jackman, as we will speak about every time we talk about him in these movies, just a perfect physical specimen to be Wolverine, you know?
Absolutely.
And I think this was the film, because this is the last time until we get to Deadpool 3, where he really gets jacked for he gets jacked for Logan, right, I guess.
Yeah, but he's supposed to look like an old man in Logan. Yeah,
he's an older dude. This is peak physical specimen Hugh Jackman right here, you know? Mm-hmm. Absolutely amazing.
Let me say too, Wolverine is a man who works in the 70s. With that big hair and his jackets, it's like he never left the 70s, really.
Absolutely. We don't need a brother. He's just soloing it himself.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it, exactly. Don't worry about it. He styles his own hair, he's got bone claws, and he's working for the mob, maybe?
Maybe. I did have questions about... He looks down at his bone claws like he didn't think he would have bone claws. Come on, dude.
I think it's just like
you know how this works.
It's the novelty of it. He's like, I haven't seen these since 2013's The Wolverine.
How do you think that worked? Do you think Magneto sort of did that? He just put some metal back on his claws?
Magneto was like... Because I wonder how long they've been in that fight in the future. Like, he says it's been years since like they've seen people like Rogue and stuff. Like, he thinks that she's dead because you can't see her through Cerebro. I wonder... I bet this is where they've got all their kit from. They're like, this is the ultimate expression of we need to fight, so we're just going to give everyone in their final form, you know?
Well, okay, Magneto does have a really awkward line when they're on the plane earlier, when he's looking at his bone claws, like, wouldn't it be better if they were metal?
Yeah.
It's a very odd thing to say, unless you know that he's going to have metal claws at some point in the future.
It's for us, Kyle.
It's for us. I know.
It's for us. Because you know what? He's not wrong. It's a very odd thing to say, but he's not wrong. Because I don't like the bone claws. I think they look slightly shorter than the metal ones, and they look stumpy.
Which they are. They are shorter because the metal goes over them, right?
Yeah. So they look shorter, and they just look stumpier, and you know. They
look a bit fragile.
Yeah. Like, there's a bit where he sort of brings them out to stab a sheet of paper on that plane, and they just look. They look like tusks, like elephant tusks. They look really like varnished. Just unsettling, Kyle.
Yeah, well, this is where we get the first scene that, at least the one I can think of, that is an addition near cut, which is apparently Wolverine has a conversation with that lady in a car.
Yeah, right. So he tells the mob men, he's like, "You're gonna give me your keys and stuff," and they're like, "No, what the hell? Why would we do that?" And he's like, "Listen, just give me the keys." So he gets dressed after they've all run away, and he's beating them in a fight. And he gets into the car, and in the theatrical cut, I believe he just gets in the car, and we cut to that shot of him pulling out of the sidewalk and driving away, right?
Yeah.
In the Rogue cut, he gets into the car, and the girl, the boss's daughter who he was sleeping with, is sitting in the car waiting for him, and they have some silly back and forward that she's because she calls him Jimmy, you know?
Yeah. Because he hasn't become Logan yet at this point.
Yeah, he's still Jimmy from X. So that's the one X-Men Origins thing we're getting here. So, so she's like, oh, Jimmy, why did you say that to those guys? But they kind of have like a bickering back and forward where she speaks really fast and outchats him. And Wolverine Logan very nicely is like, I think you just need to, lay low for a couple of days. Like, he's trying to pretend like he knows what's happening. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, I think you need to lay low for a couple of days. You need to go into hiding. I can't go with you. Get out of the car, And she kind of huffs and puffs, and eventually she gets out of the car. And then we just cut to that original shot from the theatrical cut, the car driving away, and that's it.
Yeah, that's a prime example of cut this for time. We don't need this scene.
Yep, absolutely.
So that makes me think for the roll cut, they just put in every deleted scene they had?
Possibly. Because later on we get to not Peter Quill. What's Quicksilver's name?
Evan Peters, Ralph Boner.
Yeah, Ralph Boner, yeah. But we get to his house, and Wolverine has a little discussion with his younger sister, and she's like, I'm a princess. And Wolverine's like, I'm Wolverine.
Yeah, that's not in my cut.
Yeah, so I noted that in my notes. I was like, I have a feeling this is an addition, because I actually remember more of this film than maybe I thought I did going in. I was like, I don't remember this scene before, I don't think I've seen this scene. So yeah, there
is a scene much later in the movie where Quicksilver is watching the TV and he's holding his sister. Yeah, but that's the only time she appears in the movie. Yeah,
so just after Wolverine says, I'm the Wolverine, to the younger sister, and she goes into the living room to see the mother, and the mother says, go bug your other sister. So there's a third child. I think when we see Quicksilver in front of the TV, he's holding his younger sister. I think there's a third child sitting there as well.
There's no mention of the third child in my cut.
Yeah, no, I know.
This is also just one of those funny, like, Hollywood things where this movie was in production at the same time as Age of Ultron, and they both use the same characters.
Yep. Very, very different versions, though, I would say.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, they're different, like, accents, different vibes. This one is much better, quite frankly, but,
Yeah. We don't get enough speedsters in the MCU, though.
This movie might have ruined speedsters forever.
I kind of agree. I think in Eternals they used the speedster thing quite well.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, the thing with Quicksilver in this movie is he's so OP in terms of, like, a power balance, right? The reason he doesn't come along for the rest of the movie because he could just solve every problem instantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they did it because, obviously, the scene where he runs around and does all the thing, it's the time in a bottle scene. It's what every single movie with super speed has to do now.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we're kind of getting away from it. I think definitely like the Flash wanted to do it because they were like, we have the speedster superhero.
I was thinking about the Flash and how much better this movie looks than the Flash, which came out a decade later.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. But I quite actually see how they use Quicksilver in Age of Ultron. I know maybe you would say that version of Quicksilver is quite generic, but they don't try to be fancy with it. It's just, he runs fast because you just see the the quick silver streaks that I guess he leaves behind him.
They do have the one shot where he's running in slow motion past Mjolnir and he tries to grab it and then he gets pulled along by it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. It's fine. It's a little bit.
No, look, I like Age of Ultron. Okay, people give that movie a bad rap. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I really like Age of Ultron as well. I liked it at the time, and I think it actually is one of those movies that ages better because you appreciate it as like an Avengers story where they're not dealing with Thanos or a Thanos related thing. But yeah, so I mean, I like in Zack Snyder's Justice League the Flash bit where he's outside the doghouse, the dog at daycare, and he saves Thingy West.
Yep.
I don't mind slow-mo to depict speedster stuff, but I do think that you can overdose on it. I think we're there now. So Eternals, for all the nothing anyone can ever say about it, I'll give it credit for how it treats the speedster in that movie, where when she's running around, it almost feels like fucking like she's turning a boat. There's a lot of weight to every single movement. Nothing's just as light as a feather.
Whereas this movie is very going in on Quicksilver's light as a feather when we don't see it from his perspective and he's just sort of like teleporting, basically.
Yeah. And I think both equally good interpretations, I think. I just think the baggage to this interpretation is that everyone else decided they want to copy it.
Yeah.
I say everyone else will say want to copy it. the Fox universe decided it wanted to continue it as well, because we get one of these, I think, in the next 2 movies that he's in.
Yeah.
And they're not as good as this.
Yeah, no. Well, we did jump ahead with the Quicksilver stuff, but the reason they go to Quicksilver is because they need to break Magneto out of prison.
He's in a prison, Kyle. Just a prison.
He's not just in any prison, he's in a secret underground prison in the Pentagon, which I love. It's
Heart
so
of
silly.
The Pentagon. It's so stupid. Even the prison cell he's in is shaped like a pentagon. The glass
Yeah.
on the roof above him is a
It's-
pentagon.
It's pentagons within pentagons.
Pentagons within pentagons, yeah.
I love that. It's so silly and so comic booky, but I love it.
It is. It feels, it feels like something the Marvel Cinematic Universe would have done. But no, we got here first. Fox, baby. So
Yeah, well, we also skipped over Xavier going, or no, we skipped over Logan going to meet with Xavier, and he's all washed up.
yeah, he's all washed up. He can walk. Dun dun dun.
Yes, this is kind of a contrivance of the movie I don't really understand, but yes.
To do with how his spinal fluids interact, Kyle. Because spine and
Yeah,
brain are
it's-
connected.
He has a magic potion that makes him be able to walk but disables his powers. It's extremely convenient.
It's the tension of the movie, Kyle, because you're supposed to be able to relate to it, because most of the cinema going audience can walk. You know, they're like, "Would you give up your legs to be able to read minds, Kyle?" That's the thing that's supposed to engage the
Yeah,
audience.
but that's not even really the conflict. The conflict is there's a good scene later where he's like, I don't take it to walk, I take it to sleep. And that's a good little line, and that's what it's actually about.
It's a good wee line, yeah. Haha. You could say that maybe it's short-sighted of the movie, but I think that's definitely why it's there for the audience. You can work on
I
multiple
think
levels.
it's just so James McAvoy didn't have to sit in a wheelchair for the whole movie.
Well, Kyle, he's going to be sitting in a wheelchair going forward, so
Yeah.
you don't know why he thought he could get away with it. This
Yeah,
is the
but no,
Action
he's-
Man X-Men movie, Kyle, because everyone's
It
doing
is Action
fights.
He's got his stubble and his shaggy hair.
It's the 70s, Kyle. Even Eric looks a little bit 5 o'clock shadowed at times.
It's a little bit strange to think that this is set 10 years after First Class, because they don't look 10 years older.
Everyone from First Class is dead now, apart from
Yes.
Havoc.
It's a bold choice, isn't it? They just
Yeah.
go through a list and they're like, oh yeah, everyone died from the last movie.
Yeah, so Mystique's are... we should say, by the way, the Sentinels, the reason we're time travelling is because the Sentinels are powered by Mystique's shimmering shape-shifting powers to adapt
Yes.
to other mutants' powers to be able to fight them, which conveniently is apparently in the Rogue Cut why they want Rogue. The reason they're experimenting on Rogue in the Rogue Cut is because they want to be able to steal mutant powers from them to make the Sentinels even more powerful, even though that's already what the Sentinels can do. I totally understand why in filming this they're like, oh, we actually don't need this because we've explained it away with they've got Mystique's powers.
Yeah, it's redundant. Yeah.
It's and you know I like seeing it again. Never having seen it before, it's nice to see new stuff, and it's fun seeing Bobby and Eric in the future do superhero stuff together, walking through the X Mansion. And there's some like human scientists in there that Magneto's like, I've been on one of those tables before, because he's been experimented on. He like picks up all the medical equipment and shoves them at knife point to the doctors to free Rogue. So it's all quite good. And the Sentinels are coiled inside the X-Men elevator like snakes, and as the door opens they all just kind of come barreling out like they're made of Slender Man.
Yeah, okay, let's talk, because I know that the design of the Sentinels in this movie is controversial because it's very different from the comics. I think they look pretty cool, actually. I love the big, weird Slender Man look to them.
You know what? This is what's shocking me, Mikhail, because I think you would look at this and think this is some Zack Snyder bullshit. Everything's muted and boring and monolithic and just has no...
You can do that in the depressing apocalypse future. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm quite a fan of it as well. I'm happy that we're on the same page here. You know, I'm not going to fight you over an opinion that you do not hold. But I think it's really good. And then when we see them back in the 70s, we do get a more comics accurate version. It's all big plastic Buzz Lightyear looking things.
Space age polymer, Nathan.
Plastic Buzz Lightyear material, Kyle.
Yeah. There's some logical gaps in this movie because those things don't look like you could build them in the 70s. I'm sorry. I know this is a comic book universe and everything, but...
I don't think you could build the mechanism to make them real. I think you could build just the hollow Action Man replicas of them in the 70s, though, totally. Because they're big single
Maybe.
plastic shells, you know? Big, massive curved plastic pieces all making
I guess.
a transformer. The internal machinery they definitely couldn't make, but I think their actual physical facade you could totally make back then. And like you say, it's comic booky. So there's a bit in the movie where, because at this point Magneto's decided to go rogue, if you'll pardon the pun.
Mm-hmm.
He's tried to kill Mystique because he's like, I love Mystique, but her powers is what's going to cause this. You need to die for the greater good. And then
Yeah, Magneto really buys into this future story.
yeah, he's like, this is happening. We must adjust because he's a reactionary kettle.
Yes.
And he decides that I'm going to corrupt the Sentinels in transit. Great scene of Magneto hovering behind a moving train, ripping up the train tracks behind them.
It's incredible that they keep finding cool ways to use Magneto's powers, but in
Oh.
every movie he always has a scene where it's like, man, that's so cool. There's a bit in this movie earlier where he's doing the stitchies in the back of his head without looking. He's just like doing it with his powers.
And
absently.
he's holding up a glass in midair to work as like a lens
a
to
projector. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. I like that heavy electric guitar riff that they've got for him as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so he rips up train track parts and splits them apart and turns them into like coils and puts them throughout the Sentinels before they're switched on so that he can control them. Now I get that would mean he would literally be able to control them, like he could pick them up and
Yes.
move them around.
This confused me too, because it seems more like he's hacked them.
Yeah, because they're like accepting vocal commands from him. Is the metal
Yeah.
he put inside them sentient? Can he speak to metal?
Oh, I mean, this may be the most severe we've seen Magneto's powers in any of these movies. He's in Super Saiyan mode at the end of this movie with
Yeah.
what he's doing.
Picking up baseball fields and dropping them around the White House. Yeah.
At the same time as controlling all these robots. Like, he's doing all of this stuff at once. It's insane.
He's so fashionable in this movie, though. He's got his little neckerchief. When he goes to get his helmet and outfit out from the Pentagon and finds his Nazi coin. He's got a hat
Oh,
on.
does he? That's not in my cut.
What?
Oh, he just gets the helmet in my cut. He doesn't pick up the coin.
He doesn't pick it up, but he sees it. Did you not see it?
No, that's not in my cut.
Oh, right, okay.
That's weird.
We're jumping all over the place here, right? But let's just talk about it. So let's do the road cut, the big part of the road cut, right? So the big part of the road cut is because obviously there's a bit after Wolverine sees Stryker at the Paris Peace Conference where he freaks out and he loses all his memories for why he's here. And James McAvoy's like, "You're on really bad acid, man." Okay.
Yeah, past Logan gets depossessed.
Yeah, because you need to think peaceful thoughts, which is what Kitty Pryde says to Logan before he time travels. And he, through the stress of seeing Stryker, is completely freaked out by all this, and in the future he's freaking out as well, and he slashes Kitty Pryde. She's really hurt, she's weak. We need someone else that can perform this time travel ability for Logan because she can't keep it up for much longer. We're adding tension to the movie. And we're like, well,
Yeah.
Rogue could maybe do it. And then Charles and Magneto were like, well, we think she's dead, you know, we can't see her with Cerebro. And Bobby's like, well, the one place that you can't see inside, I think maybe Magneto says it, the one place you can't see inside is inside Cerebro itself. They're keeping her in the X-Mansion. Why are they specifically keeping Rogue there? You know, I know they're experimenting on her, but why would they think that Rogue would be more important for Charles to find than any other mutant out there? I don't know. But yeah, so as the movie progresses, Magneto in the past is going to the Pentagon to break out his kit, his helmet, his outfit.
Yep.
By the way, should have been a little bit of muted purple in there. I think the brown's kind of boring, if I'm going to be honest. I, you know when I said in first class I think that that's his best outfit? I retract it. I really like this outfit. I just love the fucking colours on that, right?
Just give this one a bit more of a poppy color, and it would be perfect.
Exactly, right? So, because when is he painting his helmet? Because this time it looks like a fucking relic, you know? It looks like it belongs in the post-apocalypse, you know?
Yeah, it's weird. It's all like cracked and broken.
It looks like it's made of stone.
Yeah.
So, anyway, as he's going to break out his kit from the Pentagon, he's doing metal stuff, moving his little stress balls around. This is intercut between Bobby and Eric in the future in the X-Mansion. So Professor X, Patrick Stewart edition, flies them out to the X-Mansion, and he's like, I know some things about this house that maybe even the Sentinels do not know, you know? So he's sitting in the jet, just essentially running comms for them, you know? He's the guy in the chair. And Magneto and Bobby are walking through, like, the vents underneath the house in the X-layer downstairs. And Magneto's obviously using his metal to, like, shear things apart to get down there. And they get inside, they get into the Cerebro chamber, the big classic room that we see in the film. And Rogue is in the centre of it, and she's surrounded by, like, doctors dressed in white. You can't see their faces, they're all done up. And this is where Magneto's like, you know, oh, I've, you know, been in the... it gives his, you know, I've been victim of Nazi...
Yeah, sure.
You know, stuff before. How do you like it? So he goes to free them. I think Bobby stops Magneto from killing the scientist, can't remember. But Bobby then, you know, goes to free her. He actually goes to touch her to see if she's still alive, and then he gets completely seized up, as was one to happen when you touch Rogue.
Yeah,
So
sure.
we're like, well, she's still alive.
He never
anyway.
learns, that guy.
Yeah, she's still alive, and she wakes up. She's like, "Oh, hello, Bobby," and all that. And then we start making a move, Kyle. That's what we do.
I guess the cure wore off of Rogue as well. Don't worry about it.
It wore off of Rogue as well. Yeah, don't worry about it. The cure actually in the long term didn't work. You know.
Yeah.
So we are making our way back out the way we came, and there's a little metal hole in the ceiling, but on the ground there's the metal plate that's been kicked out for it, and that's we need to all stand on that for Magneto to lift us back up, so we're back in the vent system again. It's like Jeffrey's tubes in Star Trek, the original series. You can stand in them.
Yeah.
And as we're moving, we've got to be quick. The X-Man elevator opens that takes you into the X-layer, and it's filled with these Sentinels, but they're not just standing there. They're like, imagine snakes. They're all like sideways and sort of coiled round each other, and they sort of slide out, and it's really creepy. And then they start coming in, and obviously that is now the three of them are back upstairs in the upper level. They start stabbing the roof above them, so there's these Sentinel spikes throwing up as they're walking. You get the picture, right? They eventually blast all the way up, and Iceman decides now is the time to start freezing walls and stuff and freezing the Sentinels to come, and he tells Magneto and Bobby to go, or Magneto and Rogue. And then he just gets full on decapitated and murdered and melted.
Yeah.
So-
You mentioned that you didn't think he died in the theatrical cut. He does. He just dies when everyone else dies at the end.
Yeah, with everyone else.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
He gets melted by 3 different beams and blows up.
Yeah, so that kind of also happens, except I'm pretty sure he gets full on decapitated here as well.
He gets decapitated in the beginning scene.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, so he dies 3 times depending on which version. And, so Rogue is sort of screaming, no, Bobby, you know, whatever. And Magneto does his cool thing where he just looks really heroic as he slams metal up in front of him to weld the door shut. And then there's an explosion, and I think they blow up the entire X-Mansion. I don't know how that happens. But Magneto and Rogue...
So much for all the scientists, I guess.
Yeah, so much for all the scientists. I guess it was, now that Bobby's dead, it was never really at the height of Magneto's concern to save those people.
Yeah. You know, I'm not feeling too much sympathy for them either, to be honest.
Yeah. So we make it back to the X-Jet, and we're flying back, and Sentinel grabs onto the cockpit of the X-Jet, the Normandy X-Jet, because this is where you get some good X-Jet stuff here, Kyle, right? It's flying around in the storm, trying to shake it. You know, Patrick Stewart's doing some spins. He's doing some Anakin Skywalker good
That's
trick
a good
stuff.
trick, yeah.
And he's like closing vents on the ship because it's trying to get in, and as he closes one of the booster jet vents, it sort of cuts off the hand of the Sentinel, so the Sentinel just flies away. But this hand is now still attached to the X-Jet. And when we get back to the China base that the team are hiding out in, it starts to flash a little transponder, because the Sentinels have transponders in their hands, didn't you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they find them, whereas in the theatrical cut, none of that's explained.
This is very interesting to me, because I can both now, with you explaining that, see why they would want to release this cut of the movie, and also completely understand why they cut all of it. It's a very interesting situation.
Right? Because there's money shots in this, you know?
Yeah, there's some cool stuff, there's a lot of cool action, you get a proper, like, big action scene in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it does, you know, explain how they get found. But also, in terms of the movie, it's a complete waste of time. Because, like, sure, Kitty is injured, but she can just keep going anyway.
Yeah.
You know, which is what happens in the theatrical cut,
Yeah.
and the tension is still there.
Yep.
So having all this extra, like, it just complicates everything and isn't necessary.
Absolutely. And earlier in the film, we speak about how when the Sentinels find us, this is when Kitty sends Bishop back anyway. So
Yeah.
the concept of the Sentinels always being on the hunt is introduced
Yeah,
into the
it's
movie.
not. It's already introduced. You don't need an explanation.
Yeah.
It's just assumed that they will be found eventually.
You just assume that they will be found eventually, yeah. Rogue's got a lot of white in her hair. Probably the most white she's ever had in these movies. Enough to still be combat accurate. It's like a streak, but she's got it down both sides of her middle shed. She's also wearing like a white outfit. Like almost like it's not a medical garb, but she's all draped in white, whereas everyone else is draped in black, so she does stand out. We get back there, and Kitty sees that Bobby's dead, and just she's very upset. So in this bit, she's like, oh, hello, Rogue. I wonder if there's some like tension there because they're both lovers of Bobby, But Rogue just kind of immediately touches her when she's sort of trying to keep these powers going, but also distraught, and she completely passes out. I thought Kitty died, because we know what happens when people were completely consumed by Rogue's powers,
Yeah.
So, no, but she's...
And she was already injured.
No, but see, when Rogue takes over what Kitty's doing immediately, there's still a couple of seconds where there's no one touching Logan's temples, and we don't see him being disrupted by this at all. I guess at the time, Logan is sleeping in the past, because we do see bits he's gone to his bed. This is just after Hank is speaking to Wolverine, and he asks if he makes it in the future, and Wolverine just very bluntly goes, no, you die.
Well, okay. I noticed in your scenes, actually, that there was another thing I was confused about. In your cut, does Mystique at one point go back to the X-Mansion with them?
Right, so I couldn't remember if this was in the theatrical cut at all.
It's not.
So, there's the bit in the airport where she's sitting in an airport and Charles is able to find her using Cerebro. And
he kind of talks to her through other people.
Through other people, and then he actually shows up in her mind, and she's like, I'm doing what I got to do, and she just walks through him. Mm-hmm. So that ends, and he's like, I've lost her, I need to rest, and then we get the, do I make it in the future? Wolverine says, no, you're very bluntly dead, And Hank's like...
Well, in my cut, that happens right at the final climax action sequence.
Oh, right, okay. Well, this happens when Wolverine's just lying in bed in this version.
Interesting, okay.
And Hank sort of closes the door sheepishly and goes, okay. Then Wolverine's like, but that is not the future that we're trying to recreate here, so that hopefully won't happen, And then he's down the stairs sort of chilling, and he hears stuff, and he's like, who's someone's in the house, da 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 da. And he opens the front door, and Mystique's standing there, Jennifer Lawrence. And I didn't remember this in the theatrical cut. Now, you telling me that it's not there, that explains it. But basically, she shows up, she has a nice scene with Nicholas Hoult, Hank McCoy. He's just like mutant and proud and all that, and he sort of sees to her leg, so obviously she's got an injured leg because she was shot in France. I know that nurse has also seen to it earlier in the movie, but he's seen to it again.
But she was a racist, Nathan.
Yeah, she was a racist. And she then talks about, so are you just human all the time now? And he's like, oh, I take a shot every morning, then I need to take another one if I get stressed. And basically what that means, he says animal urges, that just means horny, because they then start having sex in front of the fireplace, Kyle, in the X-Mansion.
Okay.
And she turns blue, and he turns blue. It's quite a raunchy scene. It's very much a raunchy scene.
Yeah.
And then he kind of gets up and he's like, we shouldn't be doing this, because he says I need to go wake Charles, and she tells him, no, don't wake him, because you're here, And then there's like a line where she's like, do you remember the last thing that I said to you? And it says, yeah, mutant and proud. And then I think she says, do you remember the last thing I said to you? I don't even remember the last thing he said to her. And then he sort of leaves her alone, and she goes down to the X layer down the stairs, goes into Cerebro, and basically just wrecks it, smashes all the controls and stuff, and then she flees.
Right.
And then the movie just continues.
Okay, yeah, none of that happens in my cut.
Right, okay, I mean...
Again, another cut. Yeah, another cut that makes sense.
Another cut that makes sense, absolutely, right? I think the only thing that... It's like, it's cut, but I understand why they put it. But I think all this stuff was just re-added because they couldn't justify a full new release of the movie if it was just the going to save Rogue stuff.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. They just added all the deleted scenes back in.
They were like, yeah, how do we justify a new retail release of this? Well, we need to just add in everything, including the actual stuff that we want to add, which is the Rogue save
because,
stuff.
yeah, we should say, cuts like this are very common for movies. Every single movie has deleted scenes like this. Like, oh, we filmed this, but it doesn't really fit with the pacing of the movie, so we're just going to cut it.
Every movie ever made has deleted scenes. Every DVD
Yeah.
release of a movie ever made has a deleted scenes section, you know? It's just
Yeah,
a thing
this
that
is
happens.
very common, and usually you watch them and you go, yeah, I understood why that was cut.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Absolutely. Everyone always shoots more than they need, you know? It's very
Yeah.
common, it's very uncommon for movies not to have to cut stuff. That's where you get Lord of the Rings and Lord of the Rings, the extended editions, you know?
Yeah.
Stuff needs to get cut, and then we're allowed to see it if they were far enough in post-production that they were to be something you could release. Because you get some deleted scenes where you can see all the VFX isn't done yet. And then
Yeah.
you do get some deleted scenes where everything's finished. You're like, oh my god, that must have been quite a late cut, you know?
Yeah.
But for this, everything's been completely finished, all the VFX, because that stuff where they go and break out Rogue in the future, that's all polished, you know? Because this was
Well, I guess they probably did polish it up for this release, right?
yeah, that's true. But then you got to think of how much money are we willing to put into it. The answer to that is quite a lot, because there's again none of this is like reuse sets and all kind of cheap. Like they've had to redress stuff, and there's full VFX action sequences with Sentinels and X-Jet flight sequences that are just not in the movie at all, apart from in these bits. So they did spend a lot of money, and yes, the film sort of progresses to the White House, doesn't it?
Yes. Big action scene of this movie, I guess. I mean, there's a few big action scenes in this movie, but this is the famous one, probably.
Yeah.
Aside from the Quicksilver scene. But this is Magneto, he's lifting up the stadium. I was looking at the movie, there's a guy in the stadium, he's repainting the lines, and like, that should be Stan Lee. That should be Stan Lee there.
Yeah, right. So we should know, we usually be speaking about this at the end of our episodes, but we'll bring it up now. We are 1 month with no Stan Lee.
It's horrible, isn't it?
He's-
I feel wrong.
He's actively doing all the MCU stuff at this time, though.
Yeah, well, what was this year would have been
Not Civil War, Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier. He's in the museum.
He's in the museum. Yeah, he's like, I'm so fired. The week in 2013 is the Wolverine. He's in Iron Man 3. He's at some sort of beauty thing, like a beauty contest. He's a judge.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's doing these cameos. He's just not doing it at Fox.
Yeah. And this little scene is just the perfect little. This is where you put Stan Lee. He's painting the field. He's like, "Do you need any help, sir?" Yeah.
Yeah,
And then he runs away when he starts lifting out the stadium.
absolutely. I completely agree with you. But
But no, it's just some guy.
it's just some guy. Now,
We could maybe that is a really famous comic writer. We just have no idea.
God, let's hope not. Let's expose our normie
It's
cred.
Jack Kirby right there.
It's Jack Kirby, baby. Oh, but yeah. So we're in the final hurdle here. Richard Nixon has approved the use of Sentinels.
What do you think of this Richard Nixon? Was there not another movie where it was Watchmen? They had a Richard Nixon as well, didn't they?
Yeah, this is better than the Watchmen Richard Nixon.
Yeah. There is still a bit of a plasticky look to his face, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. I actually think that most Richard Nixons that we get are fair approximations. I'm fine with it. Richard Nixon's one of those
He's
guys.
just a
where
very
he has
distinct looking man. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's like JFK. You know, whenever you get like someone portraying a US president that's
Oh,
post
can we talk
Kennedy.
about that for a second?
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what do you think JFK's mutant powers were? Because we get that little reveal in this movie that JFK was a mutant.
Yes, we do, because that's why he's in the Pentagon, Kyle. That's why Magneto's in the Pentagon, because apparently he killed JFK, which is...
Yes, but really he was trying to save JFK.
Which I think all this is quite fun, considering like Cuban Missile Crisis and all that, like fitting X-Men into pivotal historical events, walking among
yeah,
us.
it's
all-
very Watchmen.
Yeah, bending bullets, how did the bullet... All conspiracy theory stuff that we're all aware of. Oh, Magneto done it, right? All interesting. What is Magneto's... What was JFK's power, rather? I thought once long ago I'd read up on this, and this is like before Deadpool 2 came out, and I think I heard that his power was luck.
Okay.
Now-
like a domino type power.
Yeah, like Domino. That's why I mentioned before it to be before Deadpool 2 came out.
I guess his power was a bit shit then.
It ran out. I mean, but how did Magneto fuck it up, you know?
That's a great question.
I was trying to save him. What were you doing that meant that you were unable to...
That you curved the bullet straight into him.
Yeah, right? I think this is what Matt Vaughn's talking about, where he says he wants a first-class movie before Days of Future Past in here.
He wants to cover this.
Well, not this specifically, but other pivotal moments of geopolitical history that the X-Men could fit into, you know? Mm-hmm. And the JFK assassination being a very good contender.
I mean, talking about JFK, there's a lot of interesting stuff you could do by interweaving it with like the civil rights movement and stuff like that.
It could be the most heavy-handed metaphor.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. You'd have to go meet Martin Luther King and Malcolm X.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
They stand across from each other. Like, we are parallels to you.
Everyone looks at the camera. James McAvoy walks up to the camera, grabs the boom mic, says, "Do you get it? Do you get it?
I'm the Martin Luther King Jr."
Absolutely. He's Dr. King, I'm Professor X. Are you seeing it?
Yeah, but yes, we don't get any of that, unfortunately.
No, we don't. We're post-apocalypse, baby. Mystique's still just trying to be an assassin here. She's just trying to kill Nixon. She's shape-shifting all over the place.
I did want to point out too, her look is slightly different in this movie. She's slightly less scaly than she was before.
Yep.
And I think this might actually be the best look. I think something about this one, it's a little bit like smoother. I think it works. I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, so obviously as movies go on, they do your first iteration of the suit, then you're making a new movie, you're going to try and maybe iterate on it again to make it a little bit easier. I'm fine with this look as well. It seems maybe a little bit more user-friendly for Jennifer Lawrence, and it still looks pretty good.
Yeah, I will say though, it's the most naked she's looked in any of these movies, and like obviously she's always naked.
Yep.
But because it's like less scaly and more skin tony, she's just a naked woman now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with just strategic body parts. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, listen. Yeah, I think maybe as these movies go on, we will discuss Jennifer Lawrence's evolving look as Mystique. But I will give this film's perfectly fine. Yeah, I am a fan of this look for Mystique as well. That's, fine, whatever. It's less than the first one, but it ain't bad. We'll get there.
I mean, talking of shape-shifting, let's talk about Trask, shall we?
Oh, we haven't talked about Trask at all, yeah. This is such a long episode. Yeah, let's talk about Trask.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a long movie. Yeah, Trask, he was an X2, right? And he was a sort of older black man.
Was that not X-Men The Last Stand?
It may have been it was one of those movies, but yeah, but now he's Peter Dinklage.
Now he's Peter Dinklage, yeah.
And listen, love Peter Dinklage, okay? And don't have a bad word to say about Peter Dinklage. He's a lovely, charming man.
Interesting Dinklebot for Destiny. Also 2014.
What a year. And he was in Game of Thrones as well at that point.
Yeah, he was. Peter Dinklage was having a good time in the industry.
Yeah, this was the start of the Dinkle Sons for sure.
Yeah. Dinkle Sons.
Yeah, he plays an interesting villain in this, because, like, he's not threatening, he's just a bad guy, you know? He's not, like, a physically imposing, or even, like, a politically imposing threat, he's just a conniver.
Yeah, he always keeps making it into the room where stuff happens, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
He's in with like Vietnamese generals at the Paris Peace Conference, selling military secrets is the end twist to that. That's how they get him into jail. He's a Congress test. He must have various military contracts already in place that gives him these connections.
Yeah.
And then after the Paris Peace Conference goes awry, he's just in DC. He's in the White House.
Yeah,
even though it looks like Richard Nixon watched it live.
Oval Office. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in the Oval Office. Yeah, and he's like, Congress, because the congressman's in the room that denied him. He's like, those guys denied me, and it's going to cost us a lot more money to activate them, even though I've now already built them.
I mean, you gotta feel for him, though. He's trying to sell all these people in his big toy robots, you know? It's gotta be a hard sell.
It's gotta be a hard sell, yeah. To be used against your own citizens. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so he keeps referring to mutants as it.
Yes, he's a big racist.
Yeah. This was the person that inspired Stryker, because Stryker, this was what we should know, Stryker's working for him.
Yes, this is maybe the least interesting version of Stryker we've gotten so far. He's just big military man.
Yep, big military man. Which is weird because it looks like he's cast as a younger version of the Stryker from X-Men Origins, but the flashback footage we see is of
Brian
Brian
Cox,
Cox.
yeah.
So yeah, in first class, we see this Stryker's father referring to this guy as like a younger son. And I guess we've jumped 10 years. So let's say he's 28 in this and he was 18 in first class, you know, or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
sure, yeah.
And now he's got a 10-year-old son himself.
And he's already mutant racist, so I guess his son has already murdered his wife or whatever happened.
Yeah, or whatever happened, it would be the correct term there, because I don't care. Not in stasis yet, we don't think, not in cryo.
Yeah, the stuff with Stryker's really when the timeline starts being like, where does this actually fit in?
Yeah, Stryker's the least effort put into character in these movies.
Yeah.
X2 was like the first time that he really mattered, and probably the last time he really mattered either.
But I wanted to get back to Trask for a second because there's an interesting thing going on there with the casting of Peter Dinklage specifically, right? Because I want to say, like, officially, is dwarfism the right word?
Yes,
that's considered a mutation, right? Like the lady with heterochromia in the last movie.
Yes.
It's a real life mutation.
Would you have enjoyed
And
it
it's
if
just
Professor X walked up to Trask and started using his pickup line? That's a pretty groovy mutation you got there, Trask.
Yeah. It's just a very specific bit of casting that, like, he's hating on himself, basically, and I'm sure that was intentional.
Yeah,
and I'm
probably.
just wondering what the thought process there was.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I you know, you're saying you would wonder what the thought process was there. I don't have the answer for you, frankly. It definitely wasn't interesting, and if it wasn't deliberate, my God, talk about art taking on life. You know, death of the author type stuff. It's a great casting, in my opinion. It does work on layers.
Mm-hmm. He's looking so 70s too. He's got the big hair and the big mustache.
Yeah, yeah. His suits look huge as well, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
Just wearing brown suits.
That's the
everywhere.
70s though. Big suits.
Big suits, yeah, absolutely. No shoulder pads though. They're in the 80s. But yeah, so Raven of all people has a change of heart in this movie. She saves the day, Kyle. It's kind of.
Yes, well, that's like the core of the movie,
But
right?
2 seconds earlier, she was dead set. She was in the White House bunker with Nixon, ready to shoot him. And then Magneto lifts and rips out the bunker from under the White House, Kyle. Tears it through onto the Rose Garden.
Yes.
Magneto was just so cool in this.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Magneto goes Super Saiyan at the end of this movie. He doesn't even seem tired or anything. He can just do this all day.
Yep, absolutely. Pure Captain America vibes.
But yeah, you say the roll cutscenes are intercut with him getting his equipment back.
Yes.
Which is weird because there's a better version of that here in the main cut where it cuts between in the past, Magneto is screwing everything up and making everything worse and potentially making an even darker timeline, right?
Yep.
Where in the future, Magneto is like saving the day. He's fighting all the Sentinels. He throws the X-Jet at them and blows it up.
Blows up its negative drive to make like a nuke in midair.
Yeah, he does that thing where he takes all the shards and blocks the wall off behind him so they can't get in.
Yeah, he's really good.
And it's such a good contrast between like past Magneto and future Magneto, and like he's different now. He's learned from his mistakes at this point.
He's like rallying the fighters. He like leaves because like Professor X and Rogue and in theatrical cut Bobby's still in there as well. They're all like hunkered down, and he like uses parts of all the metal to like barricade the door, but he goes outside the door to stay as part of the fight with Storm and Bishop and everyone.
Yeah,
really.
He only comes back because who's the teleporter they have again?
Blink,
yeah. He's like stumbling back to die, and she opens a portal behind him so that he can at least be with his best friend as he dies.
Right, so that doesn't happen in the Rogue cut.
What, really?
So I've got this in my notes here. That all happens as you've mentioned, except he backs up to the door to die, and then Kitty Pryde reaches out and pulls him back in.
Ah, okay, interesting.
And I think that is to underline for Rogue Cut people that Kitty Pryde still has something to do.
It's still alive.
Yes,
yeah.
still alive, still something to do. Because in the theatrical cut, her purpose is to keep Logan time traveling, right? So she's actively doing something. But when
That's it. So they re-edited it so that I mean that's fine. That makes sense.
so obviously Rogue shows up and Rogue has completely removed Kitty Pryde's purpose in the movie. So this is her purpose in the movie now. It's to bring him back through. Whereas in the fight, Blank's purpose is to open portals for Bishop and Colossus and stuff to jump through and shoot through.
Yeah.
I like Blink actually. Quite a fun power.
Yeah, I like the portal effect they use for her.
Yeah,
it's like the sort of big raggedy purple thing.
Yeah, purple rifts of like dimension splits. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite Destiny.
Quite Destiny indeed, yeah. I quite like Bishop. Not a character we see much of in the X-Men movies or at all.
Yeah, he doesn't do much, does he?
He's like he needs another energy source to power up a big gun he
Yeah,
has.
okay. So his power is he can absorb energy and then load it into a gun. I don't know if it's specifically a gun, but he uses it as a gun, right?
Yeah.
But yes, that does mean he needs to be charged up. But this becomes a real Darwin situation where I guess he just absorbed too much energy.
Yeah.
Like, he had a limit, apparently, and he hit it.
He hits it and he just explodes. A real Darwin point, you're right. We're at the Darwin point.
The Darwin point.
Whenever someone overloads, we'll call that the Darwin point, right?
Yeah, he has such a solid design, though, you know?
Yeah, well, so I have a note here, right? When Thor Ragnarok was coming out, in that movie, Heimdall gets a redesign for Idris Elba, and he's got big dreads, and he's draped in like a red cloak,
Yeah.
and he's running like a freedom fight and resisting thing, because Hela's taken over Asgard.
Yeah, Lilith from the Borderlands movie.
I couldn't possibly comment. I've not seen it. Everyone thought that was Bishop from this movie.
Why would they think that?
I don't know.
Because black man with dreads? Come on, guys.
Oh yeah, Black Man with dreads and red cloak. I don't know why, because I think they didn't show Idris Elba's face as well.
That's okay. It's weird.
I don't remember the logic of it. I never thought that. I don't think I thought it was Heimdall because I don't know. Maybe I forgot Idris Elba was in those movies. But
He's usually wearing that big silly helmet, to be fair.
we're usually wearing a big Sarah helmet as well, to be fair. But this was back when there was discussion about people didn't really know what universe was what. Everyone thought X-Men and Avengers were made by the same studio because it was both all Marvel. I remember it was a really big brain dead moment on the internet. I was like, well, of course it's not. Maybe there was like a troll farming
We've
campaign.
talked about this for years. People never understand this. People are like, oh, Logan's going to show up in Endgame and all that, right?
Yeah. Well, that was also because at the time Fox and Disney were just about to merge. You were just being bought, rather. Disney was just about to buy Fox. People thought, oh, they'll do last-minute re-edits of the movie. No. No.
No, thankfully they're not that stupid, usually.
They're not that reactionary.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Magneto saves the day in the future, and in the Days of Future Past, he almost ruins the day.
Yes. Because, he doesn't even really have a change of heart. He just gets beaten.
Yep.
Which is interesting. Mystique turns around and shoots him in the neck with a plastic gun. Which, damn, that's a good shot if she wasn't trying to kill him.
Yeah,
right?
well,
because
she was like, used to be a better shot, and she was like, I still am. And then she like uses her like acrobatic Mystique skills to like kick him down onto the ground, and she rips off his helmet and says, he's all yours, Charles. And Charles is like trapped under a bleacher floodlight thing that fell down on him. So he uses Magneto to lift.
It's very funny too that at this point in the past, Logan is just gone.
Yeah, so yeah,
Like, his bit is done now.
yeah, because so he gets covered in like metal barbs from the baseball field.
Yeah.
And then Magneto picks him up and just throws him into the Hudson.
Yeah.
And he says like, so much for being a survivor, because there's that scene on the plane with Magneto. There's so many good bits in this movie.
There's so many good bits.
Yeah, there's so many good bits where
We couldn't possibly talk about it all. We'd go twice the length of the movie.
yeah, exactly right, because Magneto speaks to Charles and they almost crush the private jet they're sitting on, and he's like, you were supposed to protect them, Charles. Why didn't you
Throughout
protect
the movie, the Magneto, Charles, Logan dynamic is it's great all the time.
them? Wolverine just sits back and lets the two of them go at it.
Yeah, well, he's not going to get involved in this one.
Yeah, he's not going to get involved in this one. But after they've had the fight, Charles walks away to sit in the cockpit of the private jet with Hank, because he's flying it. And Magneto speaks to Wolverine, who's just sitting in the back of the plane. He's like, I guess me and you're best buds in the future, you know? And I was like, I don't know about that. And he's like, no, you know, we keep trying to spend a lot of time trying to take you down, bub, because Wolverine says bub all the time. Yeah, I'm not a fan of bub, to be honest with you, Kel.
You know what? You have to commit to it. It's a character
Yeah,
thing.
it's a character
He says
thing.
Bob.
Fine, okay, I know. So, he says, you're like me, Magneto, you're a survivor. So that comes back around again with him being a survivor and saying, so much for you being a survivor, as he throws Wolverine out of the film. Because that's it.
It does make the cutting between the past and the future a bit weird, because there's no reason for them to keep Logan suppressed anymore.
The timeline is now set. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and Wolverine will have no influence on the events. So you could bring Wolverine out of the time slip.
And just have him be fighting as well.
Yeah. What you could say then, why are the two timelines happening at all? Because
it's already happened. But let's not get into that, right? Because that ruins the entire movie.
Yeah, like from the moment Wolverine arrives back in the I think it's because the two timelines are supposed to exist concurrently for as long as Wolverine is back there. And in Rogue, in my cut, or Kitty in your cut, they aren't observing the changes happening. They're just hoping that the effects will take place as both timelines are concurrently happening.
I can buy that. Like as soon as she stops using her powers, like that's it, the timeline's set.
Yeah, exactly. So she needs to like wait for everything to conclude.
Okay, fair enough. Right?
But yeah, so Wolverine is out of the movie until he wakes up in the good timeline. He's at the bottom of the Hudson, perpetually drowning but not dying. He's unconscious in the future with Rogue or Kitty, depending which version you're watching, keeping him in the past drowning forever. And
It's interesting too, because thematically, based on the previous movies, there's a deeper emotional connection to being Rogue in that moment, because they've had that connection in the previous movies, whereas I don't think Kitty even talked once to Logan in those movies.
Yeah, not at all.
So I can understand why they'd want it to be Rogue there, but yeah, it just overcomplicates the movie. Just a very interesting cut to me. Very interesting.
Yeah, it feels like there's a different version of the script that would have just had Rogue be in it from the beginning.
Yeah, that's true too. They could have just had Rogue also be at the base, right? There was no need for all of this extra stuff. But
I think maybe there was scheduling conflicts or something like that, and they just had to commit to what they had. I would love an actual sit down to get to the bottom of that, basically. But I mean, you can get all these clips on, YouTube collages and whatnot.
Sure,
I think, Kyle, you would enjoy watching those bits, having now watched the entire movie, just to kind of get.
I'm sure I would. Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend sitting down to watch the entire movie in immediate succession. It's not that big of a change.
It's mostly the same, yeah.
It's an interesting collage of clips to watch, though. But yeah, so the Sentinels have killed everyone. Goodbye Storm, goodbye Sunspot, goodbye Bishop, goodbye Blink, goodbye, anyone that was outside. And
they get... This isn't like a graphic movie, but they push their boundaries. Like, they rip Colossus in two.
Yeah, Colossus get actively ripped apart, yeah. Yeah,
that Colossus, by the way, continues to not be a real character at all. He just stands there.
Yeah, he's Muscle Man. Mm-hmm.
He's Muscle Man.
Yeah, I like that Blink opens a portal for him to like jump out off the edge of the bridge at pace. Like they use.
She used portal logic.
Yeah, they use portal to build momentum quite effectively. Yeah, like, everyone can be a juggernaut.
Someone played Portal too. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, everyone's dead. The Sentinels have blasted through the door that Magneto barricaded. They're about to open up their faces to charge a laser beam to kill everyone in that room. And then just as the lasers are about to hit everyone, everything disappears. Except the wreckage in the door. The door wreck remains wrecked. Because that was one
It just happened unrelated at some point in this timeline.
Yeah, sometime in this timeline.
I did say too, one of my favourite scenes in the movie is just the little bit where Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart, they just hold hands for a little second.
Yeah, these years wasted fighting each other, Charles.
Just some classic Charles Magneto stuff right there.
Yeah, because they love each other, Kyle.
They love each other.
They love each other. We love them.
I mean, we're being... they do love each other, maybe not in like a romantic way, but for sure, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen have a very long, storied friendship, There's genuine love between the two of them, and I believe those two characters probably love each other equally to the way the actors do. Like, they just sell it... I don't think they're acting, They're acting in the extent that they need to pretend they're about to be killed by giant Slenderman monsters. But... You know, if they're talented enough to dig to that level, they could just, the rest of it will just sell itself, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, no, Logan, we get our happy endings.
We do get our happy
Like,
endings, Kyle.
The happiest of happy endings.
Yeah, we're back. We're in the X-Men, this version of what you would call an X-Men Prime timeline.
Everything is lit and coloured, graded like it's a dream sequence, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not, but everything is.
It's got like a soft focus on everything.
Yep, so we mirror Wolverine waking up in the 70s in the waterbed. I think it's the same song playing, and instead of it being like an old lava lamp, it's like a hologram radio clock.
But unfortunately, he doesn't have a pretty lady with him this time.
Well, he's a professor, Kyle. In a school full of stay-at-home kids, it would be very scandalous, you know? So he gets up and out of bed, he's grey temples, and he's looking around, and he's like, whoa, there's so many kids in this house, what's happening here? And then we get a Kelsey Grammer cameo, he's back as Hank McCoy.
We do, and I guess I'd like...
He's like, up late today, Logan, eh? Ha 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 ha.
They didn't have space for him in the previous Apocalypse timeline, but I would have liked to see Apocalypse Beast.
Apocalypse Beast would be very interesting, yeah. Uh-huh.
But I don't know if Kelsey Grammer's like, I'll do it for a little bit, I'm not doing it for the whole movie.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Because I will say, I feel like Beast is the character with the least to do in this movie overall. He's kind of just there to be Charles's assistant.
Yeah, uh-huh.
He's like his Igor.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I guess like we say in the Road Cut, he gets that scene with Mystique as she shows up to the home.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Like, you don't need a sex scene to kind of cement. They had that emotional connection in the last movie. I bought that just fine.
I bought that just fine. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, he is the least to do. Beast is one of those characters I think they didn't really know what to do with.
Yeah, he's been Scott Summers.
Yeah, he's been Scott Summers.
he's stuck as a love interest for another character.
But not as bad as Scott Summers, should we say?
He's back.
Yeah, he's back. So we walked.
He's back and he's still being cucked.
We walk down the stairs and some guy with grey hair, that's like a dweeb, runs right past them, and that's supposed to be Quicksilver as a professor, who's not been seen in any of these movies before in the future.
No.
So I don't know the actor who's playing him, but we think that if he'd been in these movies before this film, that would have been like a known person. We'd be like,
This is also when we see Rogue in the theatrical cut. We have a little shot of her and she's still with Bobby in this timeline, apparently.
Yes, Kitty Pryde and Colossus are like
they're professors, they're teaching a class.
Yeah, they're teaching a class, they're like educational duo, where whilst Kitty Pryde is actually giving lessons about quantum physics, Colossus, who's also a professor, is just standing there with his arms folded, you know? Because that's what he does. That's his character. And
should have been holding a TV.
We get to this. He should have been holding the smart screen behind Kitty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we go down the stairs, the big staircase in the centre of the X Mansion. There's a lady in red standing in Professor X's office doorway.
It's Dream Grey. She's back.
Well, you know what? I think had she not been in the Wolverine, this would have been a bit more effective.
Yeah, because the last movie's all about, you have to move on, Logan. You have to live your own life.
Yeah.
No, never mind. Just reset everything. I'm back now.
I'm back now, baby. And he's like, oh my god, Dream Grey. It's Eugene. And just as he's about to touch her face, she's not at all troubled by what's about to happen or weirded out. She's just accepting it.
No, the relationship is equally as awkward in this new timeline.
Right? She's happy with what's about to happen here, maybe. And then it's James Marsden, it's Scott Summers' hand. It's like, hey, what are you doing there, Logan? Watch yourself, buddy. And he's...
okay.
He looks like a right golfing prick, doesn't he?
He really does. He's got like the white shades.
Yeah, with the red visor. You want to smack him.
Oh, poor Scott Summers.
Yeah, because so he, after that weird awkward encounter, he's like, hey Scott, it's good to see you. And Scott's like, uh-huh. And he's like, see you later, Gene. Like they're work colleagues, and just walks off.
Uh-huh. Still, to the very end, no idea what to do with Cyclops.
Right till the very last gasp of this actor playing that character.
Uh-huh.
And then Jean Grey's like, I'll see you later, Logan, as I walk away. And now it's Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman in the room alone together. And he's like, you're going to be late for your class. And he's like, what do you mean class? And he's like, yeah, you got to teach him history. Logan's a history professor, which I think is perfect.
Yeah, he's lived all of it.
He's lived all of it, exactly, right? If the one person that would be good for this, it'd be him. You think he gets really passionate speaking about subjects he was there for, but like he wasn't born for feudal Japan. So he's like, I don't care about anything. He's actually a really bad teacher. He's just a good storyteller for things he witnessed, but for stuff he didn't witness.
I could see that being the case for sure.
It's like, his bloody insert time period here that I wasn't around for. He's like, I don't know anything about that. I can't teach this. So he speaks to Patrick Stewart and he's like, hey, this is the last thing I remember. And Patrick Stewart's like, oh my God, you're just back from the X-Men Days of Future Past. You're just home from the cinema.
Uh-huh.
It's quite a good moment because he must have been sitting here for the past 30 years, however long.
Just waiting for this Logan to come back again. Yeah.
Exactly, right? He's like been keeping the secret to him because he couldn't say anything to him, maybe. Mm-hmm. And now he's like, good, we finally now understand each other. Because I bet this Patrick Stewart always maybe felt, even in the old X-Men movies, you always kind of feel like this Professor X for some reason saw greatness in Logan that maybe Logan didn't see in himself. And in those movies,
he gives that speech back to Professor X in this movie. It's a little moment.
Yeah, because the roles are reversed about who's helping who, right? And you wonder if the thing that Patrick Stewart's Professor X was always holding back on was knowing this was going to be happening.
That's a reading for sure.
I mean, listen, it's a new timeline, right? And obviously in those movies they have their own self-contained character arcs. But I think you could read into that to pay off to this, Now like they understand each other on a better level because they've been through this journey together over time,
So I do want to talk about this ending in concept, right? Because I feel like in concept I should hate this ending because it retcons all the previous movies. But in practice, I feel like I'm surprisingly fine with it. Just having this happy ending where everyone gets to live. It's like...
Because you like happy endings.
I like happy endings, I guess, but... you know what, Nathan? It feels like the end of Picard Season 3. It's like we've undid all of the bad stuff and now everyone can just be happy. Data didn't die. The Enterprise is back.
Yeah.
We're all good now.
We're all good. We're resetting the clock,
Uh-huh.
That's basically what this is, and I'm also a big fan of it because, see, when you're doing a big farewell to your original cast, you want them all to have a big farewell and be happy. And they're all at the school, they're all educators, Kel. That's what they're doing. Even Scott Summers.
Everything is peaceful, yeah.
Yeah, everything's peaceful and we're happy, right? And then...
We don't know what Magneto's up to. Let's not worry about that.
Let's not worry about what Magneto or Mystique are up to. And for some reason, the Next Generation theme starts playing. And Wolverine and Professor X start playing cards.
They fill a pack of cards.
Everyone comes back in. Kelsey Grammer comes in. James Marsden comes in. Anna Paquin comes. Everyone, the whole cast, they all come rolling into Professor X. They've got that table out in the main foyer. They just start from cars. Brilliant. Love it. Yeah, so... That's the end of the movie, Kel. We have some post-credit scenes coming up.
Well, interestingly, you have 2 post-credit scenes. I only have 1.
Yeah, it's the middle one I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
So the mid-credit scene is back in the 70s, and for some reason Trask, who has been held in prison for his crimes, is in the Pentagon prison that Magneto was in. The prison for one person.
The super criminal prison? I don't think he rates that.
No, I don't think he rates that. And the whole reason that he was kept there was because it was made out of pure concrete for a steel shortage in the 40s.
Yeah.
Trask doesn't have Magneto powers. You could put him anywhere.
No, he's just a man. He's just a regular man.
Taxpayer drainage, Kel.
Just stick him in regular prison. Yeah.
Put him in Blackgate or something. That's Batman. Where do you keep...
That's Batman.
Not the Raft. Not where you keep Marvel heroes, but where you just...
I'm sure there's one, but I don't know what it's called.
Alcatraz.
Yeah. No, that's where they make cures.
No, but in the 70s, was it not still a prison?
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah, it's still a prison.
Yeah, when did it ever stop being a prison, So, because now it's like, I would love
He's not even a dangerous... He's a white-collar criminal. There's literally no reason to keep him in a super jail.
You could keep him away from people who you could, manipulate and build connections with,
I guess, okay.
So... It's silly, whatever, it's kind of like a ha. It's the kind of thing that you sit in the cinema and you just go, ha, and then never think of again. And the real post-credit, Kyle, tell us.
It's so weird as part of this movie. Like, I know post-credit scenes, their whole point is to tease the next one, but usually it's sort of like a way to tie this movie to the next movie. Like I'm thinking of Thor 2, where they go to visit the Collector and they give him the thing. That's kind of tying 2 movies together, right?
Yeah.
This just has nothing to do with anything in this movie. We see a weird blue guy making the pyramids in ancient Egypt, and it's like, what the fuck is this?
A weird pale blue human, if anything, and like a weird stripy cloak, and then there's 4 horse people on the ridge watching on a sand
And there's like
dune.
thousands of CGI people praying to
Yeah,
him.
and then the pyramids are constructed. And see, for comic book people, you go, oh, we're building to it. Apocalypse. That's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
We spent the whole time calling the future this Apocalypse timeline, which is quite confusing given the next film is literally called X-Men Apocalypse. But that's because
Yeah.
Apocalypse is a character in this.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's Oscar Isaac. Not yet, but it will become
well,
Oscar
yeah,
Isaac.
we're recasting from just...
This is just some guy.
from some fella. They kind of actually look a little bit androgynous. I couldn't tell, maybe it was a woman.
That's true, but I think it is Apocalypse, and Apocalypse is a dude.
Yes,
so.
yes. And the pyramid is constructed. We see the horsemen on the sand dune watching over as this super mutant constructs it. And black, we're done. That was
Yeah,
X-Men
and
Days
you're
of
like-
Future Past.
And you're like, what?
What? Yeah, what?
Why?
Why? This is 2014. I don't know this. I haven't got a YouTuber breaking it down for me yet.
Yeah, like if I think this is we've moved from one of the best post-credit scenes to a bad post-credit scene. I think this is a bad post-credit scene.
I'm ambivalent on it, Kel. I think you probably like it less than me. I understand that it's setting up another film to come, Kel.
If you want to do this, you have Professor X. He's sitting in his library and he's studying like a book, and it's like, what is Apocalypse? And he sees like this image of someone building the pyramids. That's how you set this up. You don't just have this random scene that means nothing.
But this is more attention grabby to your normies, including probably me in 2014. Some super-powered person using telekinesis to construct the pyramids with lots of people praying at them and mysterious four
build the
horses
pyramids.
on a sand dune.
Yeah. It's ancient aliens, yeah.
Yeah, like I think this is quite attention grabby, to be quite honest with you, Kel. You're looking for like an intellectual lead. I'm looking for an attention grabby lead, and this is attention grabbing in my opinion. Obviously, all these
Okay,
movies have come
fine.
out now, and you know what it is. We have the next 2 sequels of this movie already in the can and released to watch. But for other people, it's not quite so cut and dry. You know, back in 2014, it certainly wasn't. It's not even Oscar Isaac. That's who not cut and dry it was. This is snappy. You know.
Fine.
Good.
But yes, that was X-Men Days of Future Past. Overall, very, very solid movie.
Do you think you like this more than First Class or less than First Class?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I think I might have liked this more. I think this is just really solid. I love the contrast between the two eras. I think that's all handled really well. There's a lot of really good character stuff. It's just this is just a very, very solid movie.
It's a great movie, isn't it? This is why I always say it's my favourite, and then I watch First Class and say I like it more. Maybe the truth is I don't know which one I like more, but oh god, great film.
Nathan, it's okay not to have a favourite. You know,
Yes.
I've long committed to just everything's my favourite.
Everything's
Don't
your
worry
favourite.
about it.
Yeah. That's someone who knows what he thinks, Kyle. I like that.
But I'll tell you what's probably not going to be my favourite. Would you like to know what we're doing next week?
Oh yeah, Kyle, do it. What are we watching next week? Let us know.
Well, Nathan, we're of course watching 2015's Fantastic Four, also known as Fant Four Stick.
I'm genuinely shocked because I actually thought we were watching X-Men Apocalypse next week. I forgot all about Fan Four Stick.
You'd blocked it from your memory, but no, we're doing Fant Four Stick.
Oh, great.
This is the last thing on our list that isn't an X-Men property, so
Crazy.
there you go,
Big
that's
goodbye.
something.
The big goodbye for non-X-Men stuff. Right, okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it, Kyle. I'm looking forward to it. Kyle,
Okay.
where can the people find you online?
People can, of course, find me at Kyle the Scot on YouTube, where I do video essays and game critiques, and follow me on the other social medias just to inflate my ego. You won't find anything there, though. Nathan, how about you?
As always, everyone can find me on all good social media outlets. You can find me on X, Threads, Mastodon, Blue Sky.
Don't you dare call it X. Don't you dare.
You're correct. Don't I dare. I shouldn't have done that. I retract that. I would like to actually apologise to everyone for that. I don't know why I called it X, actually. I really don't. Is this subconscious market pen? Is this the long-term game of these companies? Is it finally paying off? I hope not.
No, Nathan, it's just because we're talking about X-Men. X is in your head. That's what's happening.
That's it. I'm overloading my mic doing that, but yeah.
You're X-Pills.
Yeah, I'm X'd, Kyle. But yeah, so Twitter. You can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, Mastodon. I keep wanting to say Hive. I keep wanting to say it, Kyle. But no, you can't find me there anymore. And yeah, that's it. Maybe in Kyle's comment sections every once in a while, though. It has been a hot minute.
And you can, of course, check out our entire backlog. We're about halfway through the X-Verse now, and of course we've done all of the Snyderverse movies as well, so we've got plenty to check out. And thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next time for Fant4Stick.